Right before elections, and we're working really hard to get more pro-2A officials elected. But what we are working so hard for? Well, what does it look like if we're successful? Dan Wos is next.
All right, but first, if you have legal matters that involve firearms that you need to call California firearms lawyer John Dillon, especially if you have questions on the red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you need to know that your guns are California compliant. Call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Call 760-642-7150, or you can visit his website at DillonLawGP.com. Who's our guest?
Dan Wos.
You know him well?
He's been a guest on the show. He is a nationally recognized Second Amendment advocate and author of the book Good Gun, Bad Guy.
Oh, I remember this.
Actually, it's a whole series. Yeah, he's a host of Good Gun, Bad Guy Radio and The Loaded Mic. And he speaks at events. He's a contributing editor for many publications. He can be found on radio stations across the country. Dan, how are you?
What's going on, you guys? How are things in California? As weird as they are up here in New York?
I think we got the corner or the market cornered on weird. Yeah.
Yeah, we could trade governors, but it wouldn't do any good whatsoever.
No, we'd still be in the same place.
I forget. Are you in New York City or where are you in New York?
Oh no, I'm in upstate New York. I'm just south of the Adirondack Mountains. It's a beautiful place. It's called Saratoga Springs. Fortunately, we're mostly conservative up here, but we have to deal with all the New York City liberal nonsense because it's statewide laws. So obviously you guys are aware of.
We got the same problem. We're in San Diego and Sacramento and San Francisco.
It's L.A. and San Francisco. We have to deal with L.A. and San Francisco.
What about Sacramento?
And Sacramento is where all the bad decisions are made, but all the people that making them, they're from Sacramento or from San Francisco and L.A. So it's the same thing. I think a lot of people don't understand that, Dan, that we live in this blue state, but you get outside of Manhattan, you get outside of L.A., and we're Jackson, Mississippi.
Well, and that's just it. People, as soon as I say I'm from New York, they go, "Ooh, you're from New York." Yeah, but don't hold that against me. Let me explain. let me redeem myself.
Because Buffalo, how close to Buffalo are you?
Well, probably about 4 hours.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Southeast from Buffalo.
Talus is just released an album. You got to be. I
think we talked about this before. I'm a huge Talus fan. Mr. Big, when Billy Sheehan went on to Mr. Big and David Lee Roth band. I've always followed Billy Sheehan from the early days in Talus. Yes,
Dave. Talus is it's an '80s band, and then Billy Sheehan, who you and I interviewed, he's a gun guy, Dan. And
I didn't know that. I met him in California once, and I've been a rock and roller my whole life too. So I toured in rock bands myself, and I've always known of Billy Sheehan.
Well, that has the cover of their new album has it's got an old what was the Back to the Future car?
Oh, a DeLorean.
Yeah, it's got a DeLorean on it. It's all run down. This 80s band. It's kind of funny. Anyway. All right. Well, Dan, you were at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that? Was it like a month ago? 2 months ago?
Yeah. It was the end of October into early November. So I think it was, end of September into early October. Yep.
First off, how was it?
Fantastic. I mean, this is an event that I'm asked to speak at every year, and it's such a great event because you got gun rights advocates from all over the country. We get to meet our friends. Me and guys like Mark Walters are hanging out afterwards, smoking cigars. It's just got the guys from Gun Owners of America, hanging out with them. It's all us gun guys getting together and just shooting the what, and we're just having a great time. And we get to share everything that we know with each other, and it's just a real good collection of people, just some of the greatest people that I've ever met.
Well, I think one of the highlights was your talk. You talked about what winning looks like, and I thought it was an excellent talk. I thought you did a great job. What prompted you to give that speech?
Well, I mean, if we can talk about the negative stuff all the time, which we do a lot. There's a lot of gun laws and gun restrictions coming down on us. But you know what? I mean, we don't have any inspiration unless we actually recognize the times we win. And we're winning a lot. I mean, you got to look at some of these cases like with Heller and McDonald, and now with the big Bruin case. New York, things are changing, especially with the Bruin case. Now that we had Judge Clarence Thomas write this historical tradition piece in his decision, that's going to change everything. And I don't know if people realize that, because now we've got precedence that says if in other words, you can't create a situation where you're trying to justify new gun laws if that doesn't have some sort of historical standing. And when they talk about historical tradition, they're talking about colonial time. They're talking about 1700s. So we have a good opportunity right now to use that precedence to start pushing back on some of the existing gun laws that are in place right now. So I think things are going to change, and I think Bruin case was a big win.
It is enormous, bigger, better, more clear, more useful than even the Heller case, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell everybody, just give a little recap. What does winning look like? When you were talking in the speech, give some examples. What does winning look like for gun owners?
Well, I mean, like I said, with the historical tradition is a big deal. But you know what? Another thing is, once we start understanding, and we start pushing back on some of the narrative. Now, the narrative, I think, is probably the most important thing, because and this is some of the stuff that I talked about in the speech, but the narrative, the anti-gun narrative, is what kind of shapes public opinion. And we don't realize how powerful it is until we start seeing people voting because they're scared of guns. And then we realize that, wow, the narrative has really conditioned people to be fearful and to vote for the politician that promises them safety, which, as we see in New York and California, that these politicians are not providing safety. Gun laws don't provide safety. They actually make people more dependent on government, and they put people in more danger. And winning looks like people saying, wait a minute, this isn't working. You're letting criminals out of jail. You're changing the narrative on guns so everyone's scared of guns and and then you try to disarm the people. Well, that doesn't work. So now people are pushing back and saying, no way, it's not going to work. 2020, we had some huge gun sales, and a good portion of those gun sales were people who'd never owned a gun before. They saw the riots. They experienced left-wing riots across the country, and they said, no, we're not going to believe it anymore. We're not going to put up with it. Even the liberals were going out getting guns to be able to protect themselves against the violence that they voted for. So winning looks like changing minds and people saying we're not going to go along with this anymore. To me, that's what we need to do. We need to change that narrative, and I think we're doing it.
Well, and it's being recognized as the civil right it truly is, rather than it was almost it was kind of a novelty right. And I think it's finally being recognized as the civil right it really truly is, and it's certainly not a secondary right.
Well, I mean, our founding fathers knew that these people would be coming, and they saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. They knew that evil people or people with bad intentions would try to overpower others and take control of populations, and they knew that. They understood psychology probably better than we do today. So they wrote the Second Amendment as a way of saying, when this happens, because it will happen, Newsom, Hochul, they knew these people would come along. Biden, Eric Swalwell, these people, they knew it would happen. They didn't know how or when, but they wrote that in there just to be sure, just to be safe.
And it's a great decision, and it's going to, like you said, it's kind of paving the way to victory and winning. But one of the things I like to say about it is it's not magic, and it's not the end. It's like we've been handed this tool that we can finally use in 1,000 fights starting right now, and we're already seeing results. We're already seeing good things happen. California and New York both, no more good cause, no more of this subjective good cause crap when it comes to getting a carry permit.
Right.
And we're already seeing some of the lawsuits that we're a part of, they're getting revisited. These ridiculous assault weapons bans and magazine bans and all that other crap. It's all going to go to it's going to be falling away. It's going to be struck down, and that'll be that. That'll be it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talked about the assault weapons ban. I mean, they tried that in '94. Remember Dianne Feinstein coming out with that AR-15, holding that up in the air and saying, this is the problem. We need to get rid of these so-called assault weapons. Bill Clinton says we need to get rid of these. We need an assault weapons ban to stop violence. It didn't work. Violence doesn't stop when you take away a certain device, because violence is in the heart of some people. The people need to be stopped. The people need to, and then you get our governors who, letting people out of jail. It doesn't make any sense unless you realize that they're doing it for a reason. And I always say this, and it comes out of kind of left field because people aren't really talking about it a lot, but they're not stupid people. They're letting prisoners out of jail, early release and bail reform and all this nonsense, and they're simultaneously creating gun restrictions for the good guys, making people vulnerable and unarmed and helpless. You have to imagine that they're getting some sort of benefit out of that, creating this victim-predator society. And it's the one thing that I've been speaking out against, and I hope people are starting to recognize. I think they are. But you create a victim-predator society for one reason, and people are starting to catch on.
What's the reason?
Well,
spell it out for me. Talk to me like I'm 5 years old.
When people are dependent, they become easier to manipulate. I mean, just like with COVID, people became very scared and very dependent on what's the next thing we need to do from Fauci? What's Fauci say? What's Biden say? What's the next thing we need? Because people get scared, they get fearful, they have no way of, they think they don't have any way of protecting themselves, so they do whatever the government tells them. This is like welfare. I'm very, very against the welfare system. We've got generations now on the welfare system. These people are dependent, and they've been taught to be dependent.
County Gun Owners is dedicated to preserving and restoring Orange County self-defense rights. And if you live in Orange County and want to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, you need to join OCGunowners.com/join. Orange County Gun Owners is more than supporting the lawsuits for the Second Amendment. They have developed an effective infrastructure that focuses on local outreach and activism. Volunteer at a shooting social, at a gun shop, and tabletop, and help more pro-gun local officials get elected. Become a member today. OCGunowners.com/join.
All right, we're talking to Dan. Dan Wos, how you doing, man? So it's by the way, the album, it's called 1985. That's why they put the DeLorean on the cover of it. I had to look it up during the break. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it, Dan. So we're talking, what does victory look like? Tuesday is, of course, Election Day. Any predictions, Dan? What do you think?
Well, I have high hopes for my state of New York. I think the vibe up here is really going for Zeldin, and I think, according to some of the polls, he's a point ahead. So, wow. That is going to change everything. That's going to reverberate around the country. If New York can flip red, that's good news for everybody. And that's what I think is going to happen. And the talk of the red wave, I got to tell you, I'm starting to believe it now, as I'm starting to see some of the polls. So, high hopes, but I don't like to get too overzealous, because Democrats have capabilities of, let's just say, getting things to turn their way. So. That's what I fear. But,
well, in San Diego, there is one of the indicators that there may be a red wave is, we can vote for, I don't know, like a month prior to the actual election day, and the registrar of voters will actually tell you, they'll release the information and say, how many people have turned in their ballots. So you can get that information, and you can even sort it, see, hey, are they, Republican, Democrat, declined state. And there is an enormous influx of Republican ballots coming in, and there is they're lagging Democrat ballots. That's who knows what's going to happen on Tuesday? Maybe they're all just waiting to vote, but that's unusual. Usually, Republicans vote on election day, and Democrats vote prior. So it is kind of interesting.
Right, just see that early on like this in the early voting. That's a good sign.
It is. I don't think there's. I was thinking about one of the ways they describe this. If one party is showing up early and they're excited, and the other part isn't, they call it enthusiasm, and usually it's the result of rallying around an issue, and Democrats don't really have an issue to rally around. There isn't like a big Democrat thing happening.
Yeah, they do hate.
Well, they tried, and of course, we're a very blue state, but I'm noticing that they tried to latch on to abortion, because of the Supreme Court decision and everything, and it doesn't seem, it's just not taking off.
Well, they're not paying any attention. It's food, it's gas.
Yeah, it's the economy, stupid.
And where you're at, how much did you spend in heating oil?
Oh, up in New York, stuff like that gets really expensive. I mean, we're natural gas where I am, but yeah, no, everyone's already complaining about the heating oil expense.
And then Biden just says he's going to cancel coal.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I wanted to congratulate you guys on your recoil article. I was so happy to see it. I'm in a mall in Albany, New York, and my wife is shopping. So what do? I go to the local bookstore and I check out all the gun magazines, and they're my friends from San Diego. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, you bet. Recoil did a nice, really cool article. I thought that turned out really well. Recoil's been a good friend to us too. They've been really, really wonderful. If you're not getting Recoil, please go out and get Recoil. You can actually sign up to get Recoil on our website, or if you become a 10-ring member of San Diego County.
Oh, is that why I'm getting it?
That's why you get it, man.
You didn't tell me I was a 10-ring.
I have told you you're a 10-ring member.
I didn't know that. But I got a book. I thought, oh, look, somebody screwed up and sent me a book.
So, Dan, if we get this big red wave, I got to tell you, my fear, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. So my big fear is that Republicans are getting into office and we're not going to see any good out of them. Every year they're going to tell us, there's 3 other things that are a priority. It's such a fear of mine.
See, I don't think so. I think Dan, don't you think that they've gone to the wall against the Democrats and saying they're going to do? They almost can't not produce. Do you think?
Normally, I would agree, but this the people who are in now are real fighters. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We got. Carrie Lake.
Yes.
People like this. To me, I think there's going to be a new kind of a rejuvenation in the Republican Party. So normally I would agree, but this time I think it's going to be different.
I do too. In fact, I was talking to one of the kids at KUSI TV, and I says, the Biden group is my group. I have to take responsibility for it because of my age. I says, your group, talking to these kids, I says, are the Carrie Lakes of the world and the DeSantis of the world. And I think it's a better group of politicians.
And the AOCs of the world. Oh, wait. No.
Well, you can't. Yeah, but that's.
Oh, wait. Never mind.
Yeah.
Not that one.
Yeah. Her and Elon are getting married, did I tell you?
No.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
No.
People can get beaten down with these left-wing policies only for so long, and then I think we naturally, just because we're Americans, we naturally revert back to a kind of embracing traditional American values, and I think that's what's happening. It sure looks like it.
Well, you can't scare the people more than once. They did it with the virus. You notice where they were talking about another virus was right around the corner?
Yeah.
And got no response.
No traction.
Pardon?
No traction.
No traction at all. So they go, okay, let's try something else. And I really think it is. And I think social media has a lot to do with it. We do have a strong right side media group, as little as it is. And I think they've played that card to the death. And it's just not working anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree. They've played all their cards. They've played their entire hand, and now they're just getting desperate.
Right.
So now they're attacking the character of, I put a little Facebook post out, but I keep an eye on, I don't want to keep bringing you back to New York, but it's a good example because we got Hochul running against Zeldin, and, I watch their Twitter feeds, and the comments on Hochul's are 98% negative, but it's Republicans really calling her out on her policies. And then you go to Zeldin's page, and it's Democrats bashing Zeldin, but in a different way. The Democrats are bashing the Republicans by wishing death on him and his family, wishing his daughters to be raped.
Right.
Horrible things that you would never even think of. But this is the mindset of the Democrats. It's different from the mindset of the Republicans, and you can see that in the comment section. So I really believe it's good versus evil this time around.
What's the big issue out there? What are people? What seem to be the hot button issues between the two candidates? Like what, you know what I mean? Like what's?
Oh, it's so clear. Hochul, appointed Governor Hochul. Now, remember, she was appointed by Governor Cuomo, who left in disgrace for his sexual misconduct and getting, thousands of old folks killed in nursing homes in the COVID thing. So she was there the whole time. She was working under him the whole time, and she never spoke out. So that's one thing. But she's still there. She's riding on abortion and just the democracy. They use this word democracy, and I don't even think she knows it. We're a republic. We're not a democracy, but that's beside the point. Whereas Zeldin is saying, wait a minute, we got so much crime. We got maniacs pushing people in front of subway trains, people getting stabbed to death on the streets in New York City. We got all sorts of crazy violence, and Hochul is trying to disarm people, and she's letting prisoners out of jail. So it couldn't be more of a stark difference in platforms that they're running on, which is why I think we really have a good chance, regardless of the fact that the majority of voters here in New York State are Democrat. I still think we have a great chance just because people don't want the violence anymore. So violence is, you asked me what were the top things? Violence. It's violence and the economy.
And look what her response was to Zeldin. I don't know why violence is bothering you.
I don't know why you care about that.
Why do you care about that so much? What's the big deal?
Oh, wow.
Seriously. I mean, I actually seen it when she said it, and it took me back.
Just disconnected from reality.
Well, she doesn't ride the subway.
Yeah.
Right. Well, exactly. She's not in that.
No.
She doesn't have to experience that stuff.
None of them do. None of them ride
They do want people vulnerable. I believe that the Democrats in New York State, and I can't speak for California, but I believe the Democrats that run our state legislature really like the idea of people being vulnerable because they're easier to manipulate, easier to control, easier to accept unconstitutional policies.
But it's not working. It worked once. It's not working twice. It's not going to work a third time. Unless they can back it up with proof, it's not working. And the border open, even though they say it's closed, the crime is rampant, even though they say it's not. It's just not working because people can see it.
And you know what? The one thing that the Democrats in New York do not want is an empowered society, empowered citizens. And the one thing that gives us empowerment is the Second Amendment.
Right. Well, if you guys do get a Republican governor, what's the makeup of your legislature? Is it 50-50 or is it super blue, super red?
Our legislature is pretty much all Democrat. So I'm not sure what Zeldin's got planned, but I'm sure that's going to change to a certain extent.
What's Zeldin's background?
Zeldin was a prosecutor. That was one of the things he was. He was in the military, and he was a prosecutor. He's been in politics for a while, but prosecutor and military.
Well, but don't you think, like, if she gets out and Zeldin gets in, don't you think the rest of the people in office are going to go, uh-oh, and realize they could be next when their term comes up?
I wonder how that works. I wonder if they start bailing ship or if Zeldin is able to start bringing in some new some new legislators. I'm not exactly sure the mechanics behind that.
You might even stay in New York.
Well, yeah, exactly. My wife and I, we've talked about leaving and stuff, and then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let some crazy liberal governor determine where I live. I'm vice chair of my town Republican committee, and we have a lot of business here and real estate and things like that. I don't want to leave, and I'm not going to leave. I'd rather fight.
Well, Mike and I aren't leaving either. Hey, did you know we have a world-class flight training school in San Diego? Pilots can fly almost every day. We're close to the ocean as well as the desert and the mountains. So SDFTI's instructors can help you learn to navigate around the international borders. And that's why San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly in sunny San Diego right at Montgomery Field. Getting started is super easy. Then give them a call at 858-569-1822 or learn to fly with SDFTI or call them at 858-569-1822.
Jackson, you all right?
He wants a Mick. You want a McRib.
You got another? You got another joke for us?
Yep.
All right, fire it up.
Why does a pirate take so long to learn the alphabet?
Why does a pirate take so long to learn the alphabet?
It's yours, Dan. Go for it.
Yeah, Dan, do you know?
I have no idea.
All right, go ahead, Jackson.
Because he spends years at sea.
Bum, bum, bum.
There you go.
That's a good one.
See that, Dan? That's how you get articles into Recoil right there. Is that kind of high quality, highbrow humor. So, do you one of the things that we're talking to Dan Wos about some of the victories, both past and future, and we're both very, very excited about Tuesday. We're both very, very excited about some of these lawsuits that are happening. Do you think, Dan, that, it might be a chicken or egg. Do you think that the culture needs to change, or do you think that the public policy changes the culture?
Well, this is a good question. It's something I think about a lot, and I think we generally have people will generally take two routes in life. I think they'll either take a responsibility for themselves and a forward-moving action and have a level of self-esteem. They're a controlling element in their own life, and they'll move forward and they'll be that kind of person, that forward-moving person. But then we have people who maybe don't have that same level of kind of go get 'em and kind of self-esteem, and they tend to look for organizations or groups that help them feel more empowered by being part of the group. They're followers. We have leaders and we have followers, and I think that because those are human elements and human characteristics, I think the Democratic Party capitalizes on capturing a lot of those people who need to sit at that popular table. They need to be part of that group because maybe they don't have that level of self-esteem. They don't have that kind of go-get-'em attitude. So in one respect, it's part of our culture. On the other hand, I do believe that left-wing ideology kind of conjures up more of that, and it kind of keeps those people there. It keeps them more dependent. And like I said, we talk about the welfare system. We talk about making people fearful. It kind of those people gravitate toward that group, but then once they're there, it becomes part of their daily lives, and they have a hard time getting out because there's a difference. I always say, the left-wing folks, not all bad folks, but they tend to be more willing to give up their freedom for a perceived safety, whereas conservatives are willing to give up safety for freedom. It's a different type of mindset. So it's in our character, but the Democrats will capitalize on it more, as far as that's just the way I kind of see it, and I've thought about that a lot.
Well, and it's I think that the cultural change, though, that is the reason. And I'm not, again, it's a tough question. Did the culture change or did the policy change?
It's tough to analyze.
But I think that, like, I know in San Diego, it's definitely an example of the public policy changing, and we were able to get CCWs for the first time in decades. And I'm watching the culture change. But across the country, it was the opposite. The culture changed, and then the public policy changed. More people started caring. Well, I don't know. Gosh, I tell you, we could go back and forth and round and round.
Well, the Bruin case, at least here locally, a lot of people may not even be aware of the Bruin case, what came out of it, but what they're finding is through word of mouth, they're seeing the trickle down. The removal of that cause opened up here in San Diego County for people that want to get a permit, and friends are telling friends, and it's getting out, whether they realize the direct relation or not. They're getting into it, and they're starting to open their eyes and starting to get hopeful with Second Amendment rights, and they're getting hopeful for that.
I think more and more people are asking about CCWs, and the people they're asking, that's the first thing they tell them is the results of that case.
Correct.
And they all look at you and go, really?
Right.
Because they don't know.
They don't get the connection.
So then the next thing you know, they tell somebody else, and then they tell somebody else. So, the word of mouth is almost better than social media. Because I wouldn't doubt social media would block something like that.
Oh, they do. They censor it.
Let me ask you guys a question. What is it that keeps you in the mindset you're in that self-empowered mindset? What is it that keeps you there?
Well, I've thought about moving to another state where, there's freedom and all the things that I'm fighting for. But I've realized that if I got there wouldn't be anybody to argue with, fight against, and beat. And so the motivation to win and then, dance in a circle, after my victory, and, that's what motivates me, I think.
Well, I think people like us really, we don't mind the fight. I mean, we'll get in there and get our hands dirty because, I don't know, maybe we're built like that. It's just one of those things. And without people willing to fight, I can't imagine what this country would look like.
You want my real answer?
That wasn't your real
that
answer.
wasn't my. It might have been more of my real answer than I care to admit. But my real answer is, once I saw how important this issue was, once it impacted me personally, and I started getting involved, and I really saw the scope of the problem, and saw that it could be solved, but it has to. It takes work. I realized that it's not just about toys. It's not just about cool possessions that we can go down to the, range and shoot, and boy, this looks cool and whatever. It really, once I was able to see the fact that this is about a piece of society and humanity and civilization that is crucial and important, and that has to do with self-defense, I realized, I could go live my life and make some money and retire and go, watch TV and or
you could quit your day job,
which
you made good money at, and do this.
We could make a real, true change, right, which is exactly what this country is supposed to be. It's the country that's self-governed. And without, so once I realized that, hey, we as a group, every single member of these PACs, everybody who's in this fight with us, we can actually have a real, true effect on humanity and the civilization and history. And that's more important than anything else. That's more important than my safety. That's more important than my comfort. That's more important than the size of my wallet or checking account. It's going to be our mark on humanity. And that's why I wake up every morning and fight this fight. That's the real answer.
And don't you also agree the people you meet, the people you touch, the people that you share this story with is positive, and it's just like it's a relief that people are understanding what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say, and they're joining you. Look how big
it's a great honor.
Look how big SDCGO is, Orange County, Inland Empire. Yep. I mean, come on, you're going to go live in a 10-foot trailer and go to L.A.
It's a great honor, and I appreciate all that. But the fact that we are having a true impact on the human race and civilization is what motivates me.
Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you know what else I think about a lot is I don't want, my son to look back at me and say, you know, Dad, I'm locked down in my house with my family for no good reason. Our cars have been shut down, and we can't use them. We can't go anywhere unless the government approves of it. We can't buy anything unless the government approves of it. Dad, why didn't you fight harder?
Amen.
That's a good one.
Dan, how do people find your book and learn more about you, man? You got a website, or how do they listen to your show, or where do you want to direct them to?
Absolutely, and thanks, guys. It's always great talking to you. I really appreciate being on the show. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and keep it up. We really appreciate what you're doing. People can find me at goodgunbadguy.com. Goodgunbadguy.com. I also write on a regular basis for AmmoLand. You can find me at ammoland.com. And also the Loaded Mic. LoadedMic.com is my web show. So thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.